New Vault Hunter, huh? You picked a hell of a time to join the Crimson Raiders.
Let's do this!
You didn't think 2K were going to escape without a performance review from SwitchUp of one of their biggest releases of the year. So we have Borderlands 3 on the Nintendo Switch. We're going to go through the performance, we'll go through the visual quality, some interesting choices, the frame rates in both docked and handheld mode, any options there are, any little tweaks, and look, before we get into it, this is the Nintendo Switch version of Borderlands 3 in every sense of the word. Let's have a look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. How does it perform? Well, let's find out. I'm going to try and group this into sections from now on to make it easier for you guys, especially with these ports. So this section is settings and controls. Straight off the bat we have motion controls for both aiming, where you pull LZ, aim down the sights, and motion control kicks in just in that time, or you can have it on permanently. You can also tweak the sensitivities of the gyro to hopefully get it somewhere where you like it. Other accessibility options include aim assist, you can have it snap to target, and I have to be honest, a little bit of aim assist along with that gyro creates a real nice sweet spot. The question we're always asked are, can you remap the axis? And the answer is yes, you can remap the XY axis, have them the standard way or inverted, whatever suits your tastes. You can also change some text colors to help with readability if you have color blindness. And the holy grail of Switch things, you can adjust the text size. So if you like subtitles, you can stick those on and you can change the text size. Now, I don't know whether that affects the UI and the menus though. Some of the text in those is a little small, but still, it is nice to have the option. Next up, we've got install size. So what are we looking at here? Well, initially you're looking at around about 9 gigs to download the game and get it installed and running. I think it might even be 9.3. But to get the full install size, you'll have to go to the downloadable content section where it will take you to the eShop and you can download absolutely everything. Now there are some that aren't exactly necessary. Things like language packs, which actually take up quite a bit of space. You don't have to install those. But with everything installed, all of the expansion packs, bar the language pack, mine takes up 18.9 gigs, which is a lot less than what it says on the back of the actual box for the game. So yeah, I don't know how that works, whether it gets larger and larger and ends up taking up that much space, but as of right now, 18.9, which is nothing compared to the install size on PC. When it comes to the online play, I think that's where the strangest thing has happened on the Nintendo Switch version. From what I can tell at least, it looks like you can only do 1 or 2 player online co-op. Now Borderlands is made to be played with 4 people. Whether or not this is a mistake on the eShop, it's impossible for me to tell right now because there's no one online. But if that is the case, well, it's pretty sad, isn't it? There's also no split screen, and yep, you do need Nintendo Online to play with other people from around the world. Having said that, there is matchmaking. You can do that with friends or you can do that with anyone. And there are separate options there for accessing the DLC content and new modes. And well, there are a few ways they've managed to save space, as we're about to find out. So on to performance then. Well, I bet none of you expected this game to run faster than 30 frames per second. In fact, I think most of us were expecting 25 FPS and struggling all the time. It runs mostly at 45 to 60 frames per second. And obviously when we look at the visuals in a minute, we'll find out exactly why. But yeah, they're running the game at an uncapped frame rate between 30 and 60. And for a lot of your time, it will actually be running at 45, 50, 55 and 60. And along with that gyro, it feels better than I thought it would, I think is the fair assessment. Now, in more intense firefights, you can bring that frame rate down. Certainly, if we take a look at some of those, you will notice a few times where it drops below 30, which isn't ideal, and there are some latter areas of the game where I am absolutely convinced we'll see some worse frame rates. Across everything though, it's yeah, surprisingly better than I thought it would be. Now with that said, you will see some very long load times, so transitions between areas can take upwards of a minute, but input latency is also another area that's surprisingly good. There's clearly no VSync here, they're trying to keep everything running as quickly as it can, but as we know that can introduce some tearing and things like that. You will see a few artifacts. There are a few people out there that would prefer to have a locked out frame rate. I actually am not one of them. If I can have 50 for most of my experience, then that's what I'm going to go for, but I know that's probably me in the minority there. So then let's go to the visuals. If we start with a couple of side-by-side comparisons, the opening scene is a good place to start between the Nintendo Switch version and the PC running at 1080p. As far as the visual quality goes, we're looking at quite a few things cold. Now, aside from the actual resolution itself, things like ambient occlusion, real-time shadowing, level of detail, draw distance, all of those are significantly lower on the Nintendo Switch. One area that's very clear are in the different lighting effects that you'll see on the PC version. Many of those are entirely missing from the Switch. Static shadows can be seen from a distance, but real-time shadows, or the high detail shadow, spawns in quite close to the camera. The image on Switch, well, it has very heavy use of dynamic resolution scaling and FSR potentially, and I don't think they're using anti-aliasing. I'm not sure, but usually post-processed anti-aliasing introduces even more blur. And I mean, I'm seeing jaggies on the edge of text. The textures around the world also are very low. One slightly comical area this shows up is on the arms of your character holding the gun. Now, I'm sure there's shallow depth of field in other versions. The texture of my arms was so blurry, I actually thought it was shallow depth of field, and maybe that's what they've tried to do, but yeah, it's just a really low res texture. The funny thing with Borderlands is because of its artistic direction, it can still actually look alright in motion, even when it's running on a potato. Now, we said the decal draw distance is lower. The amount of decals that can be displayed on screen, or decals, is also lower. Things like corpses, whereas on PC, when enemies get shot, there's a spray of claret, sometimes limbs come off. Very often on Switch, when you hit those criticals, they vaporize instantly into nothingness. There's still some animation in there, and actually some of the ragdoll still remains. But as far as bodies strewn all over the place, there do appear to be less, and they disappear more frequently. Now, character models on the selection screen are a good indicator of the overall drop in quality. They do have slightly better textures though than the environments. I guess you're going to look at those a lot more. Strangely, the menus suffer a lot in Borderlands. They can look quite grainy. The engine is notorious for a loading in delay, especially with Switch, because it's quite slow in that area. So sometimes if you spin the camera, you'll see particle effects appear out of nowhere, or the texture resolution increase the longer you stare at it. Now, skyboxes, they actually remain quite good. Now, of course, when you've got those direct comparisons in front of you, it makes it very easy to see all of the things they've cut and the drop in quality, but when you're playing it, it's actually not too bad. So let's have a look at handheld then. Handheld, well, I've got to put on my nice custom wooden joycon slot fillers. I forget what they're called. If I can find out, I'll pop a link in the description. But from here, I can show you exactly how the gyro controls work. And I think handheld is the way that I'm going to be playing this one. It maintains the same frame rate as the docked mode. Squashed down actually looks passable. I really do hope that when I pick up Switch 2, whatever it's called, and load up the eShop, I can just patch these games and have them running at a flawless 60 with higher settings. Will the companies allow it? Who knows? They'll probably want to resell it to us, won't they? Or at least sell you the upgraded versions. But you can definitely see there's so much potential here. If they can get Borderlands 3 running at 50 frames per second as they have done here on a Tegra 1, yeah, what are they going to do with a processor that actually has some guts to it? Next up then, we have sound and audio. Now, I am no sound technician, but I do notice some things. To me, it feels like some of the ambient sounds as well as some of the background music sounds different on Switch. Things like the skags, you hear them as if they're right next to you when they're miles away. And that first boss fight, for me, it sounded like some of the sound effects had been slightly stripped out or changed, like it's lost some of its depth. Now, again, let's play it side by side so that we can assess it with our own ears rather than me speculating.
Shall we?
The darkness embraces me!
What do you reckon? Am I hearing things, or is there a change there? The Ultimate Edition of Borderlands 3 is going to cost you $49.99 or your regional equivalent. It does have a physical version, which is a little bit cheaper here in the UK at Game for 47 quid. But the loss of 4-player online, that's just unbelievable, really. To me, that is just, yeah. I mean, Glen and I play together in co-op all the time, but still, we like to get some randos on and do 4-player. You can link 2 Nintendo Switches together and play side by side in the same room using that LAN setup, or you can do the same online. But I don't know, I just don't think I'd be paying that price. If I wasn't going to make this video for you guys, I'd just wait. The others have had massive sales, haven't they? I'd probably just wait. They've been very selective with their eShop photographs as well of the game. I think I'd struggle to get ones that look quite as pretty, but it doesn't run nearly as badly as I thought it would, and it's admirable that they've tried to go for up to 60 FPS. You do need those Twitch reactions. Gyro benefits greatly from having higher frame rates, and yeah, I gotta say, most of the actual fun of the game, the shooting, it's all still intact. Aiming with gyro is nice, but do not expect an oil painting, because you shall not get one. I do hope this was of some help to some of you. Let me know in the comments your thoughts. Was I too harsh? I mean, I don't think I was harsh or non-harsh. I was just telling you exactly what there was. But let me know what you think. If you do want to buy the game, you can save yourself 10% using code SwitchUp over at switchup.gg to buy your eShop credit. You get 5% instantly, and you'll get 5% back in our SwitchUp coins, which can be redeemed at any point. Thanks to our Patreons and members, to all of you that enjoy this type of content. Stick around if you want to, click buttons and stuff. And as always, for all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers, guys. See ya!
You're the mule! Screw you, mule! Them anyway. Holy hellstorms for Troy! What's even real?